Alrighty folks, this is Lurch from Ireland Gaming and welcome back to another episode of From the Depths. I'm here today to play with Swarm Missile Systems, because a couple of people have been asking about it. I have been playing about with these guys to sort of, I mean I've used them before, but I want to show off some of the like pros and cons of a Swarm Missile System, and then give a couple of examples, as you see before you, on how to implement them. So one of the biggest pros of a Swarm Missile System is it overwhelms anti-missile defenses. So if you fire basically enough missiles, then you can get more missiles through than it can take out, and some of them are going to hit. They also have pretty good burst damage, and they're also very easy to build. But there are some things that you have to bear in mind when you're actually building them. Now, one of the biggest cons of the whole thing, the biggest disadvantage is they're extremely inefficient. Obviously, because you're planning for some of your missiles to get blown up on the way to the target, you rely on spam, and it's very, very costly. It's also costly on the CPU as well, because it can make the game very laggy. The more missiles you fire, the more the game has to render, the more paths it has to check with the CPU, and, well, you end up with a laggy game. So swarm missiles aren't great for that, but they can be still very effective. One final thing you want to bear in mind is long missiles are very easy for an AMS to hit. So, you know, even like a laser system, it gives them a bigger target. So you're kind of limited to your shorter missile lengths, and thus your range is limited as well without resorting to like really slow burn missiles. But we'll talk about that now in a second. So what makes a good LAM system? Let's look at this first example, and this is an example of a not good LAM system. This is a bad one. Or LAM system? Swarm missile system, sorry. I cannot speak today. Anyway, this is a good example of a bad one, or a bad example of a good one. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, the example is this guy uses short-range thrusters and explosive missiles. Now, the biggest problem straight away is your explosive warheads. Whenever a laser anti-missile system or a normal missile system takes out a missile and the cargo detonates, or the warheads detonate, explosive warheads will actually take out nearby missiles, so that's a bad thing. If you have a clump of missiles all together with explosive warheads, if one of them gets shot, they're all going down, so that's a really bad thing. You really want to avoid explosive missiles on a swarm missile system unless you can disperse your missiles effectively, and there are ways to do that, such as using ejectors at like different launch angles to just split them all up nicely as they leave the ejector, and that'll sort of split them off enough that they can do damage without getting all blown up at the same time. If you really need to use them, you can use staggered fire, which is normally the best way to get, put a bit of distance between explosive warheads. But the trouble with this is using the staggered fire like I have on this missile system, it lowers the missile saturation in the area, so that gives the anti-missile system more time to deal with the whole missile cloud, and you kind of want them all firing at exactly the same time for maximum effectiveness, and that sort of puts 20 missiles in the area in range all at once, and then if it has to deal with all 20 of them before they close in on the target. So splitting them up is actually doing the laser system a favour on the other side. So you want them all going at the same time. This also uses a short-range thruster, and the biggest problem with this is it's the equivalent of a variable thruster set to 1000, and it's not very fast. So I actually have a test platform set up over there. Now, the LAM system on this platform, which that is over there, is pretty crazy. It's still got the old engines, it's got loads and loads of laser nipples, and it can take out a fairly good whack of missiles before they get close. So let's fire this first one off. See how many of them get across. And they're starting to get taken out now. And very easily takes them all out with plenty of time before it gets anywhere near the target. Pretty naff. But it's not a very big system. It would work against like smaller laser systems. This is obviously a ludicrously overpowered LAMs, and against, a much smaller one, it wouldn't have much problems. These are also infrared missiles, so they're going to get hurt by flares and stuff as well. But that's a sort of a unanimous problem with all missile systems, so we don't have to worry too much about that. That's just another countermeasure that you have to deal with. We're talking specifically about anti-missile systems at the minute. So there's a good example of a bad one. Let's move on to a good example of a good one. So we'll turn this guy off and have a look at the missiles in this one. It's more or less exactly the same design. It doesn't have a staggered fire upgrade. That's an identify friend or foe. It's only got one extra missile rack, and the big difference is in the warheads, or the actual missiles themselves. So we were using a variable thruster this time. We have an extra fuel tank, and we're using a camera for IR seekers. And the camera allows you to set to any particular random block, which disperses the missile swarm out a little bit as it closes on the target. And this makes it A little bit more like a swarm missile system, and it disperses the damage around the target, and B, it makes, you know, your clump less clumpy. It's armed with 2 fragmentation warheads, and like the infrared seeker, again we have problems with flares, but this, because it's a much faster warhead, a much faster missile, works a lot better. We have the ramp time set to 3 seconds because it doesn't matter how fast the missile is going at the start of its journey, it's more important right at the very end. And we've also got our thrust set to 3000. Now, the frag warheads prevent these missiles getting blown up whenever they get near to the target, so that's a good sign. And the extra one can't hurt. So let's fire this guy off and see if any of these get through. You see they're all launching at the same time in one dedicated little clump. And they all spread out, and a couple of them got through. Now that's the same amount of missiles, it's the same size of missiles, but because of the configuration, they're actually more effective. And you can see we actually took a beam out. There, progress! So that's an example of a better missile that you can use to do the very same thing. And they're all coming in, and one of them got through. So even that is not enough to deal with this stupid crazy LAM system. So that brings us on to the third example. Let's turn this guy off. This final example uses laser guidance. Just to mix it up a little bit, it also allows us to squeeze an extra warhead on here, which is always well and good. We've got frag warhead set to narrow cone. This is much the same as the other one, only we're using a laser designated receiver. Now the difference between these and the cameras that I like to use on this is they won't disperse the shells out very much. But we're firing a ton more missiles. This is just totally going for broke. And if you really want to ensure that your missiles are getting through, just fire a whole crap ton of them. This fires 71 laser guided missiles, and this obviously counters flares. So the effective range is approximately 900 meters, but only a really stupidly powerful laser system will be able to take out this many missiles. So it is a bit of an overkill example. Let's get it firing here. It's just a block of missiles. And good luck, Mr. Platform. A considerable amount of them got through, detonated the ammo, and yeah, one salvo was enough to get through the whole laser system there. And we have an enormous hole on the bottom, and we still have plenty of missiles dead in the water here. And this is what I'm talking about efficiency. I typically avoid swarm missile systems because I don't like wasting so much ammo. But you really can't deny how effective they are. So yeah, that's roughly what the concepts and premises behind making a swarm missile system and making it more effective. There's a couple of little sort of bits and pieces you can do to improve their effectiveness. Mostly aiming for faster missiles is good, and avoiding explosive missiles unless you can disperse the swarm really well. Oh wait, did I say this was the final example? Yeah, well, okay. There's one more. As they say on Mythbusters, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. So I've hid this little rack at the back. This is 138 9-block laser-guided cruise missiles with a 0.1 second stagger. Now the stagger actually helps in this case, because if you launch them all at once, you get a big dirty lag spike and the game gives you the stink eye. So while the stagger hurts it as a swarm system, it helps it in terms of game performance and actual damage done. So let's just get this guy an example. So very beautifully cinematic there. Guys? 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 What are you doing? This is like a light show, it's cool. Why are you not targeting? This should be laser targeted. Why are you no worky? You pointy at the thing. Oh, I know why, it's the smokes. Oh, it is so clever and sneaky. Smoke screens apparently interfere with laser targeters now. That's a lot of fun. I hate you. This prevents the laser missile from actually getting to it. So what the hell are we limited to? This is a real pain in the ass. God, this platform is really powerful. Okay, I'm going to switch them up to IRs, just for shits and giggles. Really showing me up here. Still looks mighty cool. Well, anyway, let's find something that isn't a complete laser light show, like something off a Pink Floyd tour, and we're gonna just go and show this thing blowing stuff up. After I've maybe set these to infrared targeting or mixed them up a little bit. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, including my horrible stumbling failures at the end. Any likes, subs or comments are really, really awesome. I love hearing from you guys, and I read every single comment. As always, take it handy, and have a bloody good day.